All right, good afternoon, everyone. Please hit that thumbs up, hit that like button on your way in. We got a lot to discuss today. You guys see the title. Definitely want to have this discussion today about which fight trilogy was better between Canelo Alvarez and Triple G versus Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. All right. But before we get to that, we're gonna talk a little bit. Hold on. All right, sorry about that. So before we get to that, we're gonna discuss a little bit about last night first. We're gonna get through last night, and then we're gonna have that conversation. And definitely gonna have anyone is welcome to join up and speak your piece about the whether you're going to speak on the fight last night or the anything Canelo Triple G related. Um, Last night, solid card. Some drama in the card, obviously. Um, I was able to see Mark Castro, nice young prospect on the come up. Mark Castro looked good. He scored a good knockout in that fight. What else? I saw Diego Pacheco. He scored a really good knockout as well. He boxed good. And I really liked his performance. He was one of the fighters on the undercard that looked really good, and looked very disciplined in his knockout win. Who else was there? So we had Ammo Williams. Fought. What's his name? Oh Jesus, I can't remember his name now. Let me look up. Let me pull up the card. Pull up the card real quick. All right, let me pull up the card because I don't want to forget any of the other card fights that I saw. Oh, Conway, right? Conway. All right. Yeah, shout out to everyone that's joining us. What's up, Punch Perfect? What's up, everyone that's joining us? That fight was the most competitive fight to me. On the undercard, outside of obviously Bam Rodriguez and Israel Gonzalez. That fight was a good fight. I think the first 6 rounds I had it split. All right. Ammo was being very, he's being he was coming forward. He was being the aggressor. But Conway was doing some great counters in the first half of the fight. After the 6th round, I had it tied 3-3. And then Ammo started to take over, was able to drop Conway, hurt him at one point, and he took over for the remaining 4 rounds for me, and he won the fight. Good fight. Definitely some things that Ammo needs to work on. Okay, he's still undefeated at this time, but some things he need to work on. Definitely with his chin. I see his chin, all the way up in the air sometimes, and I think he got to set up his punches a little better. I think at points he seemed to be a little too aggressive, but good performance. And then we had Bam Rodriguez against Israel Gonzalez, which was a really tough. I mean, if you were here, shout out to everybody that was here last night. It was a really tough fight to score. But the low blows really ruined it. The low blows and the scoring. I thought it was really close. I was assuming that Bam would win a close decision or maybe it being a draw. I do believe that Bam was landing the more effective shot. I think he had the better power. It's just that Gonzalez was just landing at will. He was going to the body a lot. Didn't seem to really be slowing down Bam, but he was just constantly throwing and landing punches. He would land like 4 or 5 punches in a row at times with no response. And I thought every round was just back and forth. There wasn't many clear rounds. I think the 9th round for Bam was like the first round that I thought was, I believe it was the 9th round, which I thought was the first like clear round between either one of them. All right. But I was disappointed in the scorecards. The scorecards had was super wide for Bam Rodriguez. I think they only gave Castro like 2 rounds or so, 2 maybe 3 rounds. I can't remember how they scored it, and he got a point taken. Bam got a point taken for the low blow. All right, so very tough scrap. It was a good fight though, but there were a lot of low blows on both sides. A lot of low blows. Okay. So I mean, it's not like I want to see a rematch. I'm gonna be honest, as close as I thought the fight was, I don't really want to see a rematch, but it was definitely Bam's like most competitive fight this year. The other fights that he had against, you know, legends, those guys didn't bring the intensity that Gonzalez brought last night. All right. But I don't want to see another fight like that. Fight was just way too hard to score. I mean, it was just back and forth. It was good action. But I can see ways that Bam for sure can definitely adjust and do better in a second fight. All right. So let's talk about Canelo and Triple G. Let's recap the fight again real quick. And look, I scored it 8-4. You know, I've seen scorecards as low as 10-2 for Canelo, and I've seen them as high as 7-5 for Canelo. I haven't seen anyone say that Triple G won or they thought it was a draw. I can kind of see it. I mean, I'm thinking if you did give Triple G 5 rounds, I'm assuming you gave him the first round and the last 4. You know, I gave Triple G 3 out of the last 4, and I gave him the first. I can definitely see the 9-3 with giving Canelo the first and maybe Triple G 3 of the last 4. You know, whatever way you had it, I don't think there's any way that you could say that Triple G had a draw or won the fight or anything like that. Canelo clearly won the fight. But I scored it 8-4 with a couple swing rounds in there. I think one of the swing rounds I gave to Canelo and one of the swing rounds I gave to Triple G. So there's no real argument there. I think anyone that has it in between, you know, 10-2 and 7-5 for Canelo, whatever. You know, I'm not going to go too much into it. I was surprised to hear 2 115, 113 rounds, but it is what it is. You know, I'm not like going crazy. I see a lot of people going crazy on the internet about it. I don't think it's really that much of a big deal, especially with the cards we got in the first fight between those two. All right. So look, you know, I was thinking about it today. I started to rewatch some of the fight and saw some of the highlights. I want to say that I'm more disappointed in Triple G. You know, Canelo slowed down. No, he didn't prove to me that he would win a Bivol fight. But for the first 9 rounds or the first 8 rounds, Canelo boxed well. And he showed to me that he's just a superior boxer between the two. Triple G, I was more disappointed in the sense that what he did in the final 4 rounds, I felt that he could have done that a little sooner. At the bare minimum, throw more jabs. It seemed like Canelo completely dismantled him from that jab. Like they stripped the jab away and he wasn't able to use it. It just seemed like Triple G had no confidence. He looked awkward. He looked old. He looked slow. And he just looked real shaky. And then when I saw the 9th round and then I saw the 10th and then I saw the 11th, I was like, where was this Triple G all this time? Why did it take so many rounds for him to finally open up and look like his normal self? So I was more disappointed with him, even though he's 40. I was more disappointed with him only because at 40, I thought that he was more capable than what we got, even at the age of 40. But I understand people's disappointment with Canelo as well because of the fact that he was boxing so well, he was doing everything right. And then after that, like the last 4 rounds, he just gassed out again, you know? And this has always been a Canelo issue. I think around the time in the last few fights or so, or think in the final fights at 160. I want to say starting with the Triple G rematch, I think there was a point where people weren't really bringing up the condition and the stamina issues with Canelo like that because we didn't really see it like that. We hadn't seen for a while, so I thought that that wasn't much of an issue. Now I saw it in the Bevo fight, but in the Bevo fight, um, Bevo was bigger. He was outworking the smaller Canelo. Canelo's at 175, fighting a better fighter than Kovalev was. So it's more understandable that Canelo slowed down. But when he slowed down in this fight, I was like really shocked by it. You know what I'm saying? Um, I didn't really enjoy the fight. I didn't enjoy the fight. It was a one-sided fight. Triple G did come back strong late in the fight, but it just wasn't enough. He gave way too many rounds away. And this was nowhere near. No one's gonna remember this fight. This is everybody's gonna remember the first two fights, which were great fights. Two, fight of the year candidates. Especially the second one. There's this third fight. It was a pay-per-view, and again, like I said last night, I know a lot of us are pissed. A lot of us feel like a lot of boxing fans feel like they got robbed. There was just a cash grab, that it wasn't a real thing. Like Triple G fought. And this is why I say I was more disappointed in him, because Triple G didn't fight in a way like he really wanted to win. It was like he was just there for the night. And I just wish we didn't get the fight. I never wanted to see a third Triple G fight. I wasn't totally against it. It's just I didn't have any desire to see it, because it would have made more sense if it happened maybe a year after, or maybe 2 years after the second fight. But it was just too much time that's passed since that rematch, and Canelo fought way better fighters since then, like compared to Triple G, and Triple G is just getting older and older. You got to remember, at the end of the day, Triple G was already like around 35, 36 for both of the first fights. So he's 40 years old now, and now he has to go blow to blow, toe to toe with Canelo, who's been on a good run at 168. Plus, Triple G has never fought at the weight before. I thought it was just too much. It was no way I could have picked Triple G to win this fight. I didn't think Canelo would stop him at any point, but I didn't also think that I thought Triple G would give us a better fight and win more rounds to that. To be honest, if you really think about it, if Triple G gave us maybe 2 more rounds, of more fighting, if he had picked it up, started picking up maybe a couple of rounds prior, just could have been another debatable fight. But it wasn't even that. Canelo won way too many rounds. So it was very disappointing of how it ended. But it is what it is. I'm glad that it's over. I'm glad we could finally move on from this. And then, you know what? When I say I'm glad we can move on, it's not going to change how people feel or felt about the first two fights. For the people that think Canelo lost those first two fights, they're going to still think that. And they're going to think that Canelo only won this time because Triple G was 40 years old. So if you are, if you don't believe Canelo won the first two fights, this is not going to help you or make you respect him anymore. It's just like you beat a 40-year-old version of a guy that many believe you never beat before. It is what it is. All right. So yeah, I mean, I'm more disappointed in Triple G, if anything. But I look at the press conference today, and so Canelo was speaking about his hand and his wrist. I believe his wrist. All right. He said his wrist has been bothering him since the Caleb Plant fight. All right. So he beat Plant, he lost to Bivol, and now he's at Triple G. He noticed that his hand was bothering him. And then at some point, he was just kind of brushing it off. All right. It didn't look like his hand was injured last night, but he said it was bothering him. And from what I read, he is planning on getting surgery. All right. I think he should get the surgery. You know, I say that about any fighter that's complaining about any pain. I said this about Gary Russell too earlier this year, when he lost to Mark Masayo. I said the same thing. Once he started talking about injuries way before the fight, having shoulder injuries for years and not really just getting it done and getting it taken care of. I understand fighters that don't want to jump and get the surgery. I understand it because you don't know if the surgery is going to change you in a worse way, you know, and then you don't want to be sitting and be out of taking fights and stuff. So I get it. But for the long run, you might as well just get the surgery. And same thing with Lomachenko. I was saying that about Teofimo Lopez, especially when fighters lose or they underperform. I just say, like, if a fighter's hurt, get the surgery, because no one wants to hear the excuses after the fight is over. You know, even though Canelo won anyway, I know people are highly critical of his performance. It wasn't his best performance. When I say it wasn't his best performance, for 8 rounds, Canelo looked incredible. He looked great. But those last 4 rounds, I was disappointed in the fact that he slowed down that much against the older guy, you know? But he looked great, you know? So I think he should get the surgery, take a break. You know, you had a busy year. You fought twice this year. You know, he fought like 3 or 4 times last year. He's been active. So take a break, get the surgery, and do that. Now, I don't know what happens with the titles. I don't know how that's going to work. He holds all 4. I don't know if he's going to have to be forced or freeing up the belt. I don't know how long he's going to be out. No, if he's going to be out for a year, I don't know how that's going to work. You know what I'm saying? But, I think he should take a break. And I think it's good when some of these fighters take breaks because it makes other fighters try to make their own moves. You got Benavidez as one of his mandatories. You got the winner of Zach Parker and Demetrius Andrade is going to be one of his mandatories. I don't know if he even wants to stay at 168. I don't know if he's going to try to rematch Bivol if he wins. I don't know. I have no idea what Canelo is going to do moving forward from this. I don't know what he wants to do, but I think the priority, if he's really having hand issues or wrist issues, take care of that. Take care of that so you could be sharp in the next fight and we could move forward. Like, we can move forward from this. We don't want to hold on to this injury because you're going to have to level up at some point. If you're going to fight Bivol again, you're going to need your hand to be on point. You got to have to be 100% for that fight because you already lost to him, So that's how I feel about that. All right. So, let's talk about this whole topic of the day. I brought it up on Twitter yesterday and everybody's tweeting about it still. I see a lot of people in my mentions talking about this fight and this debate of the trilogies between Deontay Wilder and Fury and Canelo and Triple G. And I know there's plenty of people are bringing up trilogies from the past. And listen, I'm only bringing up these 2 because these 2 were the 2 most recent big, huge trilogies. They were pay-per-views. They were massive. The one is a heavyweight. One is at middleweight, super middleweight. I wanted to have this discussion. So I want everybody to join. Anybody that wants to join up. Anyone that wants to just leave comments, that's cool too. I'm just going to give you my views first. All right. This is the way I look at the 2 fights or the 2 trilogies. Let's start with Canelo and Triple G, since we just had that. Canelo Triple G 1 was a great fight. It was action-packed. It was back and forth. I do believe Triple G won based on activity, right? I thought that Canelo would take too much time off in between the rounds, but Canelo's boxing I like better. He just didn't give me enough. Triple G did more work. He was more aggressive. And I felt that a lot of rounds that I gave to Triple G was simply based on the fact that he was busier for 2 minutes of each of those 3-minute rounds, where Canelo would start out faster. He's winning, he's countering, he's landing the flush of shots. But Triple G is just keeping that pressure on him. Whereas Canelo would take off period of each round, take off 2 minutes of the round, moving, just staying on the ropes, not throwing anything back. And that's why I gave that fight to Triple G. It still was a very competitive and close fight. I think when I say that fight was a robbery, it's simply based off the 118-110 scorecard. I feel that that judge had that scorecard pre-written before the fight. You know, that's a guy that got paid off, in my opinion. Like, there's no way you could only give Triple G 2 rounds in that fight. That's just crazy. All right. But I love the first fight. The first fight was an extremely competitive fight. I thought, even though I think Triple G won, it was a draw, but it was a real draw. All right. It was a great fight, though. It was an excellent fight. All right. No knockdowns, but there was some big punches that landed. Triple G landed his while Canelo was on the ropes. We know that big, huge right hand that Canelo hit him with in like the 9th round. Out of the first 2 fights, it's debatable which one was better. They were 2 totally different fights, but it was technical. It was very skillful from the 2, and it was action-packed at the same time all the way through. Loved the fight. Won in the rematch immediately, and that was that. Let's talk about Wilder and Fury 1. Wilder and Fury 1, man. I actually saw that fight at Legends, a bar downtown. All right. And it was a wild crowd in there. I think I spoke about it one time, but I remember watching the fight live, and I think the following morning I immediately watched it again. It was just, when I think of that fight, and I do remember looking back at it, leading up to the 3rd Fury and Wilder fight. The fight wasn't really that good if you do not count the knockdowns. Wilder looked very sloppy. Wilder was doing right hand after right hand after right hand and missing. And Fury, I felt, was playing it super safe, similar to the way he fought Klitschko. All right. He was lighter. He was quicker compared to the second 2 fights with Wilder. And he was winning. He was out jabbing Wilder. He was touching him with shots. But Wilder was the aggressor. Wilder was throwing punches to knock Fury out, but he was just missing terribly. Like you saw in that fight where Wilder looked extremely limited. All of the complaints that we've ever heard about Wilder, we saw it in that fight. So the fight was not that entertaining. Then there was a point where Wilder drops Fury. I'm talking about the first knockdown. Now, the first knockdown was like one of those shots where it like grazed the back of Fury's head or behind the ear. And Fury was slipping. He was in the corner and he kind of just went down. Wasn't a huge knockdown. Wasn't like Fury was hurt, but it kind of looked like his legs went out on him when he got hit with the shot and went down. Still, Fury to me was clearly winning more rounds, but it wasn't really that entertaining because, again, Wilder's missing. Fury's landing more, but Fury's not hitting him with any intent. Like, he's not really trying to hurt Wilder. You know what I'm saying? He was with Ben Davison at the time. He was with a different coach. He was lighter again. Was different. The 12th round saved the fight. That's my point. The first fight, the 12th round saved the fight. If we're talking about round by round, it does not compare to Canelo and Triple G. But the drama of Fury almost getting knocked out, getting hit with a right hand, laid out, he almost didn't make the 10 count. He gets back up. He fights on. He actually wins the rest of the round. But the fact that Wilder knocked him out or almost knocked him out made the fight what it was. Not the first knockdown. I'm talking about the 12th round. Made that fight. So if you ask me which was the better fight, I would say Canelo and Triple G. It was more technical. There was more action. cleaner punches, all right? And it was back and forth. And you actually debate what you like better. Did you like the pressure from Triple G, or do you like the boxing and the counter punches from Canelo? What did you like better? Both of them were doing well. It was better technically, and I think the fight overall was a more action-packed fight to me. Now, the second fight between the two was even higher on a technical level, where to me, in my opinion, that's the best Canelo I've seen, and that was the best Triple G I've seen. They went into this second fight exactly what they were supposed to. They both were better. They were both better in the second fight. Really high technical boxing. Loved it. You know, they both jabbed each other to death. They both stayed in the center of the ring for the majority of the time. Both landing big shots, clean shots. I think Canelo got a little hurt at the end towards one of the later championship rounds. You know, but Canelo was doing so much better. He was making Triple G go backwards. We didn't really see much of that. We'd never really seen that before. Canelo's cardio was amazing. That's why I still to this day, I think that is the standard, like, for Canelo. I think that was the best Canelo I've ever seen. Whether you think Triple G won or not, I thought that Canelo that night was the best. I remember watching it the night of the fight. I remember the first time I was at a fight party. I thought Canelo won. I rewatched it. I thought Triple G won. I rewatched it recently again. It's tough to call. I love what Canelo was doing. I love what Triple G was doing. Rounds, a lot of swing rounds there, back and forth. It was just, to me, it was better than the first. I think the first was maybe more fun, but I think the second was way more technical, and I think both fighters improved in the second fight. All right. The second Wilder and Fury fight was a beatdown. It was a beatdown. There's nothing else to say. It was a straight beatdown. And if you are pro Fury or you're anti Wilder, you're going to love that fight. That's going to be one of your favorite moments. It was just like Wilder. It kind of reminds me of Josue Vargas when he got knocked out, you know, earlier this year or last year. When he got knocked out by Zepeda after doing all that talking, that's what it felt to a lot of people. That's what it felt like when Adrian Broner got beat up by Marcus Mandata. It was just, no one could have predicted Wilder to get knocked out by Fury. No one was predicting that. It doesn't matter if you pick Fury to win and outscore and outbox Wilder. No one predicted Fury to just beat Wilder up for all those rounds. I mean, I was here live, and that's still to this day, one of my most viewed commentary videos that I've ever done. No one was expecting Wilder to just get pummeled by a feather-fisted Tyson Fury. I mean, it wasn't a fight. It was a beatdown. Wilder kept getting dropped. Towel got thrown in. And then you had all of the drama, you know, with Spike Water and the glove gate and all of that stuff for 8-9 months, for a whole year. We just got drama from boxing fans. It just drove the boxing world crazy. But the fight itself was a beatdown. It wasn't competitive. The first fight was more competitive. The third fight was more competitive. The second fight was a beatdown. It might have been more memorable to certain people because of the way and what happened, but it wasn't a competitive fight. The better fight was Triple G and Canelo. Triple G and Canelo 1 was a better fight outside of the 12th round. And Triple G and Canelo 2 was a better fight because it was just more competitive. Now, if you're asking what was more entertaining, you can easily say Wilder and Fury. because we remember the drama from that 12th round. We remember the fact that Tyson Fury stopped Deontay Wilder, and we all didn't expect it to happen. I didn't expect it to happen. I picked Wilder to win the first 2 fights. I thought Fury wasn't ready. I thought Fury wasn't ready the first fight. I thought Fury wasn't ready the first fight, right? Because I thought it was too soon. He had those 2 first fights on his comeback. And I said, it's too soon for Fury to fight Wilder. He needs more fights. He didn't look too good on those first 2 comeback fights. So I picked Wilder. I said, Wilder's going to knock him out. He almost did. We get a draw. Then the second fight, I said, all right, yeah, I know Fury fought Swartz, and he fought, what's his name? Atawalin. Atawalin looked good. You know, he got Fury cut, and Fury struggled against him a little bit. I was like, Wilder's going to beat him again because Wilder figured him out by the 12th round. All Wilder has to do is land that one punch. Fury changes his train. He goes to Sugar Hill. He puts on weight, and he's a beast in the second fight while Wilder is still slim, and he gets burnt out by the second and third round. He's already burnt out. Blamed it on the water, blamed it on the egg weights and his trainer, and, you know, he spiked his water. It was a bunch of excuses. So I would have to say the better fight is Canelo and Triple G for sure. 2. But as far as entertainment, you can make the argument that the first 2 fights were more entertaining because of the moment of the knockdowns. Those knockdowns make fights entertaining. If I have a bunch of friends that are not into boxing like that, if we come over and we're having some beers, we're having some drinks. Well, I don't even drink beer, but if we're having drinks, we're chilling out, and they don't watch boxing, and I want to just throw on a fight, I'm probably going to put on Wilder and Fury. Because of the knockdowns. It is what it is. If they don't watch boxing like that, they're not going to really appreciate what is happening in that Canelo and Golovkin rematch. They don't know the story behind that fight. They don't know about the build up for that. You know what I'm saying? They just don't know. They don't know how long we've been asking for this fight. And then when we finally got it, they don't know the drama behind the draw in the first fight and the wide scorecard. They don't know nothing about that. So for pure entertainment, Wilder and Fury. But as far as competitive, top, high-level boxing, Canelo and Triple G by a mile. 2 competitive fights versus 2 not-so-competitive fights. Triple G, Golovkin, Canelo 3 last night. This is an easy one. It just wasn't a good fight. In fact, Triple G Golovkin, Canelo, I'm sorry, it shouldn't even be mentioned in this. That fight last night does not compare to any fight between these 2 trilogies. It just was a disappointment. That's it. It happened. They took our money, and Canelo won. It was clear. It wasn't really that competitive. Triple G had his moments, but it was a snooze fest. We were boring. It was boring. We were watching it, and we've seen the same thing happen over and over again. Triple G comes alive in the 9th round. Canelo starts to slow down. He picks up some rounds, but it doesn't even matter. Canelo won the fight before the 9th round started. He already won. No knockdowns, no drama, just a clear win for Canelo. Triple G doesn't look nearly as good. He looks 40 years old, and he loses the fight. There's not much I can really say about that fight. Wilder and Fury 3 was the best one. That was the best fight of their trilogy. We got 2 knockdowns from each, and it was the most competitive fight out of the trilogy. Wilder switched it up, came in a little heavier, all right? Came in a little heavier. He didn't want to get bullied by the much bigger man. Lost some speed. Stamina got burned out kind of quickly again, but he was able to catch Fury with 2 shots and drop him. It was a very, very Wilder against Fury 3 might be my favorite heavyweight fight in this generation. With Joshua Klitschko being a close second. Yeah. Wilder Fury 3 was my favorite fight of the recent heavyweight fights, in my opinion. I honestly think that it still wasn't as competitive as Triple G and Canelo 1 and 2 as far as scoring rounds, because Wilder still didn't win that many rounds, but he did score 2 knockdowns. And it was just good, man. It was never a dull moment in that fight. Wilder gave it his all. Fury was still, he was still good. That was the best one. That fight is a classic to me. I love that fight. I could watch that fight over and over again. So when it comes to this trilogy here, and if you guys want to join up, I'll repost the link. If you guys want to join up, we'll love to hear from some of you. I have it 2-1 as far as the trilogy is concerned. I have it 2-1. I give the first 2 fights to Triple G and Canelo, and I give the third to Wilder and Fury, which possibly might be, I think my favorite 2 fights out the group is probably Triple G Canelo 2 and Wilder Fury 3. I think those are the 2 fights out of the 2 trilogies that are the best. But yeah, it really depends on your taste. I've heard different views on it all yesterday and today. A lot of people picked Wilder and Fury trilogy, prefer that one because of the knockdowns, because of the drama, because of the surprises. I don't really think there was any surprises in the Triple G and Canelo fight, but it was just more competitive, way more competitive in those first 2 fights. All right. The third fight was not so competitive. All right. But Doy 34 says Fury versus Wilder, third fight was a surprise. Yeah, I mean, all of the fights was a surprise. All of them were fights. All of them were surprises. Those 3 fights, there were surprises there. Knocking Wilder, dropping Fury, and Fury getting back up like the Undertaker. That was a surprise. Wilder getting stopped in the second round, dominated in a second fight. I'm sorry. That was a surprise. And the 2 scoring knockdowns. I think Fury scored a knockdown first, and then I think Wilder scored 2 knockdowns after that. So the fact that Wilder got dropped and then was able to come back and knock down Fury 2 more times brought a lot of excitement and a lot of drama to that fight. You know what I'm saying? So I loved it. I loved it. All right. DJ says Fury Wilder fights are definitely better trilogy to watch, in my opinion. John Doe says I enjoy both trilogies. Wilder Fury 3 was madness. I love it. Yeah. And somebody said that to me. Someone tweeted me that yesterday. Someone said to me, they said that what did they say? They said that they enjoyed Fury and Wilder more because it was 2 guys that were literally trying to kill each other, and sometimes that brings more entertainment. It depends on what you like. Again, I think and I'm not trying to disrespect anybody here by saying this, because I know that a lot of you are hardcore fans, but for casual fans, that's the fight to put on, because you're just getting craziness. You can't explain it. It's just 2 guys beating the hell out of each other. They're getting knocked down, 2 really, really big guys. And Canelo and Triple G, I don't think everybody's going to appreciate the level of tactics and skills that came into those fights from the two of them. I mean, these are two top tier pound for pound level fighters that when added at the time that they fought in the first two, not so much the third because Triple G didn't really show up last night, but he is 40. All right. But the first two fights were great fights. Eddie Morales says Benavidez and Canelo will have a trilogy. I don't know about that. I don't even think they're going to fight. I don't know about that. I think if Canelo is going to fight Benavidez at some point, Benavidez is going to have to do something first. Because this whole dispute, this argument about Mexican fighters and him and what he said, when questions are asked and you're not really direct with the answer, but you're direct with other answers, it just makes me wonder, like, okay, what is the deal? Why, the first original time he talked about it, when asked, they asked him, like, if Bivol beats, or no, they asked if Zerto beats Bivol, are you still going to fight Bivol? He said no. So if Zerto beats Bivol, are you going to fight Zerto? Well, I don't want to fight Mexican fighters. That was his answer. All right. I don't want to fight Mexican fighters. That was his answer. And then when they asked him again about it yesterday, they asked him about it and he answered it by, bringing up Benavidez and his dad talking shit about, because everybody was dissing Canelo when they heard it. And he responds with, well, Benavidez, again, I'm Mexican. I represent Mexico. I don't want to fight Mexican fighters. He says, I do not want to fight Mexican fighters. He said, I'll fight anybody, but I don't want to fight Mexican fighters. But Benavidez has not fought anyone. He fought one champion in Andre Durrell. He hasn't fought anyone yet, and that's not really answering the questions. It's not like that's not resolving anything. First of all, it's two fighters mainly that we're asking about. We're asking about Zerto at 175 because he's very relevant. He's a Mexican fighter. He's going to fight Bivol next. And we want to know, what's your take? Are you going to fight Bivol? Or are you going to fight Zerto if he happens to beat Bivol? It's a simple question. Yes or no. Canelo's English is good enough for him to answer that clearly. So are you going to fight Zerto? Yes or no? The answer is, I do not want to fight Mexican fighters. Is this just be direct? Sid, thank you for the donation. Sid says Wilder Fury was better than Triple G Canelo. A lot of people think that. I noticed that there's a lot more people saying it this morning than they were saying it last night. There was a lot of people yesterday when I asked yesterday, and thank you again for the donation, Sid. When I asked this question originally last night or yesterday, a lot of people were saying, yo, you don't even need to watch the third Triple G Canelo fight. I'm picking that trilogy to be better because the first two fights were just way better than the Wilder Fury trilogy. This is why I didn't want to discuss it until after the fight. But I see that this morning, a lot of people feel that Wilder and Fury trilogy was better. And I see where they're coming from because of the excitement. That's very fair. Some people want the technical fight. They want to see the top tier fighters being all super technical and stuff. And they want it to be super competitive, which Triple G and Canelo were. It was all three fights. Well, the first two fights were very competitive. I can't say that the Wilder Fury fights were really that competitive. I think Fury, to be honest, I thought Fury won all three fights. I thought he won all three. I thought he edged the first one on points. He stopped Wilder in the second one. And he stopped Wilder in the third. Yeah, well, it is Canelo's preference. I think Canelo, see, when we talk about this, let me get one thing clear. I know what other fighters are doing and not doing. I am fully aware that Canelo has the best resume of any active boxer. No disputing that. Any active boxer, Canelo has the best resume. He's taking the most risk. He deserved to have his tune-ups. That's why I don't go in on him when he fights guys like Rocky Fielding or Abney Yildirim or whatever. I don't go in on Canelo because if he's going to give me 2, 3, 4 fights a year and he takes a tune-up or an easier touch in that time, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. I'm not angry. I understand what Canelo is doing here. What I am saying, though, is that the standard changes depending on who it is. You know, this is something that was said about Floyd Mayweather. He didn't fight black fighters, and he got criticized for it. He got criticized a lot about it. Being that Canelo has come out and said that, there are other, even though Canelo, I think, is the best as far as the resume is concerned, there are still a lot of top tier A-side type of fighters. If they were to say the same, they would get crucified for it, except from their fans. And that's my point. It is his preference, but there's a lot of fighters that have preferences, a lot of fighters that choose who they fight next. If everybody did the same thing, it would just make this sport worse. If everybody came out and said, well, I'm not fighting this specific group of fighters for whatever reason, right? It just ruins it. We don't get enough fights as it is. It just ruins everything because Benavidez and Zerto are worthy or at least close to being worthy for a fight. That's my point. Sid says Wilder lost all 3, but Trilogy gave us great moments. Last one was one of the best heavyweight fights. We got an iconic Undertaker moment from the first one. Yeah, I said all of this earlier, and I agree with you. You know, I agree with that point. I think I still thought that the Triple G and Canelo first 2 fights are my preference as far as what's better because they were competitive and they were entertaining to me. But I have the third Wilder and Trilogy, third Wilder and Fury fight as my best, is way better than the third Triple G and Canelo fight for sure. That third fight between Wilder and Fury was special. You know, I love that fight. You know, that's the fight that I go back to and watch between the 3. You know, outside of the knockdowns of the first 2, there's really not much to see because Fury was so dominant in the second fight, and the first fight was kind of boring outside of the knockout in the 12th round. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. We all got to have different opinions, you know? But yeah, that's how I feel about Canelo and the whole Mexican thing, you know. I mean, and even his response, he didn't completely clear it up, you know, because Benavidez is just one part of that. And, you know, everyone's asking about Benavidez. And again, you know, I've said this before. David, thank you. David says boxing is an individual sport, not a national sport. It is stupid to think what Canelo said. You should fight anyone and not exclude anyone. I agree. And thank you for the donation. Yo, my view on it is damn, I just lost my train of thought of that. Okay. Benavidez, David Benavidez is a guy that is reminding me of Demetrius Andrade. Because David Benavidez is he just can't get in there with the real top comp. And a lot of it is his fault. You know, I think there are certain fighters that don't have the same privilege as other fighters. And it has nothing. Sometimes it could be race or nationality related, but sometimes it has nothing to do with that. Sometimes it's just being on a wrong network or having a wrong manager or having a wrong promoter. I think certain fighters have to literally work their way to get to a big shot. And a lot of fighters feel that they should get chosen. David Benavidez, unfortunately for him, he got stripped twice in his career already. And that slowed him down. I think if he was holding a title, maybe Canelo would have fought him for one of those titles to become undisputed. Some people say, well, if Benavidez was still holding a title, Canelo wouldn't have even went for undisputed. Listen, I don't. That's neither here nor there. We can't prove that. We won't ever know. We won't know. Because at the end of the day, that WBC title was tied up in a Callum Smith fight, the vacant title. So that became a unification match because David got stripped. But David missing weight, he got stripped. I think failing a drug test, marijuana test or something. At the end of the day, you slip up, you may not get the opportunity again. But guys like Billy Joe Saunders, who failed a drug test with PEDs, skip out on an Andre fight, goes to 168, fights no one, does not unify, and he gets a Canelo shot. And this is what I mean by privileges. Everybody is going to have a different road to the main goal. And Billy Joe Saunders got his Canelo fight. Did I think he deserved it at the time? Absolutely not. He didn't unify with anyone. Callum Smith didn't unify. Plant didn't unify. Benavidez didn't unify. These guys are on the same networks, these pair, and they didn't unify. We didn't get any unification matches until Canelo moved up. So my thing is, not everybody is going to have the same story. And Benavidez, unfortunately, reminds me a little bit of Andre, just a younger version. Andre, whole career has been ups and downs. Bad promotion, pulling out of fights, not taking deals, packages that would push you to get to that next step. Missed opportunities, but he had opportunities that was missed out on him. There were fighters that did duck him at the same time. And that's what happens. Bedoy 34 says, Isaac Cruz said he agreed with Canelo. Mexican fighters have a corrupt boxing system. Most amateur fighters go to the Olympics by bribing officials. This means that the best do not gain an international experience. I'm not going to get into all that because I don't know if all of that is true. This is what you're saying. This is not what I'm saying. I don't know if that is working that way as far as the bribing being in the Olympics. I do think the Olympics is definitely corrupt, but I don't know how that works when it comes to Mexican fighters specifically. All right. I don't know. All right. It could be true. It might not be. Definitely thank you for supporting. All right. And I didn't hear that Isaac Cruz agreed with Canelo. I will definitely look up the video and see if I can find an interview of where he said that. All right. But I think again, everybody's gonna have their different opinions on it. And I understand that it's Canelo, and Canelo is consistent with his fights, and he's fighting the best. And if he doesn't want to fight a guy because he's Mexican, it's okay. My point is if everyone said the same, did the same, and I'm talking about the other super elite fighters, it would be a problem in this sport because we're already not getting fights. I think the best should fight the best, regardless of nationality or whatever. If you're the top tier fighter, and I believe Benavidez is one of them at 168, there's still a lot that he needs to prove, but that would be a good fight. And you know what? Even before Canelo fought Smith, before he fought Saunders, before he fought Plant, many of us believe that Benavidez had the best chances against Canelo, and I still believe that at 168. And this is why it's getting brought up. It's only getting brought up because people want to see the fight. There's a demand. There's some sort of demand for the fight. And if people keep using excuses of him not having a resume and stuff like that, what is Benavidez, 24, 25 years old? You know, I mean, I know Canelo accomplished much more at that age, but, you know, Canelo's been fighting as a pro since 15 years old. He went straight pro. He doesn't have that crazy amateur background, you know? I know there's a lot of people bring up, like, you know, Star Fox has said, what are Andrade and what are Charlo doing? What are they doing? You can't come to me with that because I've made countless videos complaining about those two not fighting. But I am talking about Canelo. And when you talk about Canelo, people want to distract you and talk about somebody else. I know that Charlo and Andrade are not doing anything. But even those fighters have been avoided at some point. Not their whole career, because I'm a believer that, yo, you got to take your own path. Don't slip up. Keep fighting. Keep building yourself on the rankings. Make weight. Stop using drugs. Stop getting into trouble with the law. Stay on point so a fighter won't have to have a good excuse to avoid you. I say that about Andre. I've been saying that about him since 154. When he got stripped from the WBO title from being inactive. Why are you in the prime of your career going a whole year without a fight just because you want a Canelo fight? If Canelo does not fight you, you still got to create your own lane. Try to unify. Do what you have to do to put yourself in position to get that big fight. And that includes fighting other top tier fighters. You know what I'm saying? Making the right moves. You have to do what you got to do. You have to stay active. And unfortunately for him, I believe he wasn't with a good promoter. I believe that Andre wasn't with, you know, he turned down the network deal with Showtime. They offered him a Charlo fight. He screwed that up, right? But he's young. It's probably his manager. It's probably whoever was running his career was probably giving him a poor choice and options and direction. All right. And that's pretty much why he screwed up. So with that all being said, we're not going to just talk about that all fight. There's people like Billy Joe Saunders, who he could have fought, that Canelo did fight, that ducked Andre clearly. Billy Joe Saunders ducked Andre. We talk about Andre, but people don't like bringing up the fact that Saunders, who fought Canelo, ducked Andre. He ducked him. He failed the drug test and then moved up and never revisited the fight with Andre again. That is a duck. That's more of a duck than any duck that's out there. But Canelo fought him. Just like Canelo fought Liam Smith after Andre got stripped. Everything is based on timing. That's why I said go straight, go ahead. Not everybody's going to have the privilege to slip up like Saunders and still get a title shot with Canelo anyway. Not everybody's going to get that. You know? So that's the way I look at it, really. There's really nothing else to really say when it comes to that. You know, I think, you know, at the end of the day, you know, Canelo, I don't like everything, but see, I don't like when everybody's waiting on the A side, you know, the cash cow. I don't like that. I don't like when everybody's just waiting on Canelo, because Canelo's only one man. He doesn't run the sport. I used to say that about Floyd. I used to get annoyed when, you know, you had all of these fighters like Amir Khan and all of these other welterweights that was kind of waiting around to see if Floyd was going to choose them, like if they was going to win the sweepstakes or something. I used to get annoyed by that, and I feel like the same thing is happening right now with Canelo. So I get that. I don't like that all these fighters just sit around waiting for him and getting their shot. But I do think certain fighters are worthy for a shot. I do wish that Benavidez would get a shot. But I also wish that Benavidez had, like, you know, unified or taking some tougher challenges before getting to Canelo. You know what I'm saying? Um, so that's my stance on that. And that goes for all of those guys there. I mean, Plant got a Canelo shot. And what did Plant do? Is Plant's resume any better than David Benavidez? I don't think so. Their resumes are very similar to me as far as level of opposition. Um, Plant beat Jose Uzcategui to get his title. Benavidez beat Anthony Durrell to get his. And outside of those two wins, the rest of their wins are very, very average. The rest of their wins are against solid guys, but nothing crazy. You know, but Plant got a shot and he earned like 10 million for that fight. What did he do? But he got a shot. What did he do? He got the shot though. What did Billy Joe Saunders do at 168? Who did he beat at 168? You beat Chris Eubank Jr. You both were undefeated and you both were prospects at the time. So that's a good win. All right. That's a good, still waiting for Eubank Jr. to get a big win. We haven't gotten one yet from him. But it's a good, solid win. At the time, it was a good win. You beat David Lemieux. Cool. You outboxed him. Great. But David Lemieux had a few losses already at that time. Triple G stopped him. But you got a Canelo Alvarez fight. We can have this argument all day about everybody. No one has, most of these fighters do not have these crazy, super great resumes. I think Benavidez has done enough to earn it. I mean, he's a two-time champ. He just the kid can't hold on to the belt. Keeps losing it outside of the ring. You know, and that's his fault. That's not Canelo's fault. So in order for Canelo to fight those guys, look, I think if there was some value and some real value in the fight, Canelo would take it. But Canelo understands that he's the cash cow. He's the big fish here, like for real. And he's going to get paid regardless. So this is why he decides on who to fight. Because at the end of the day, boxing is really about money. You know? So, you know, Benavidez is just going to have to find a different way to get those shots, you know? And I don't know, you know, the PBC, you know, I don't know what his contract and how many fights he has left with the PBC, but listen, if the PBC is not going to get you any fights and your contract is up, you got to go, man, because at the very least, if you're going to be over there, you should at least have gotten a Plant fight. You should have gotten a fight with Jamal Charlo. Like, you should be pushing for those fights. Those are the fights that you should be getting, you know? There's plenty of fights that could be made in those weight divisions at, you know, 168, you know? And if they're not giving you those fights, I don't know what else to tell you, you know? Maybe it's time to go. Maybe it's time to go to Top Rank or Matchroom or go to, I don't know, anywhere, you know, but they should be getting you something. And if you're not getting anything, then I don't know what else to tell you. But at the very least, hold on to the damn belt. If you are to pick one up again, I don't know what's going to happen with Canelo. If he's sitting out, you know, is he going to get stripped or is he going to vacate some of those titles? I doubt Canelo holds all the titles for a long time. You know, I don't think he really needs to, you know, just got to wait and see. All right. So, yeah, I mean, listen, that is my thoughts. That's my breakdown of the trilogies. You know, it was a great trilogy. You know, I mean, Canelo, Triple G, I think he should retire, but you know, if he does stay, I mean, he can still make some money and get involved in some good fights. Losing to Canelo is not a horrible thing, but I say retire because I wouldn't want him to start losing to a bunch of guys that he would have beaten a few years ago. You know, that's why I think he should retire. You know, oh, I forgot to bring up. It's like I just thought about Gabe Rosado in that fight. He got shut out by Akhmedov last night, straight 10-0. You know, not saying that Gabe is like some superstar or something like that, but he's well known enough. And at this point, like I would like him to retire just simply because of the fact that, you know, he doesn't seem like he can bring anything. He can't. I mean, he had his big win against Bektamir, and it doesn't seem like as much to offer there. And I wouldn't want Triple G to stick around and start losing to guys that he wouldn't have normally lost to, you know. But I think if he does stay, what I would like to see, if he is going to continue boxing, and which is what he said he will do, I would love for him to stay at 160, go back down and try to get an undisputed run, you know, go for a last. That's an excellent way to finish your career because, you know, Triple G had a great career. I understand he had a lot of title defenses, but you know, his top 3 wins are not like legendary wins, man. They're just not. You know, they're good wins. Jacobs is a good win. Lemieux's a good win, and Devenchenko was a good win. Those are his top 3 wins. All right, we're gonna remember you off your trilogy, but you don't have a recorded win there. So I would like Triple G to try to make an undisputed run as a way to go out. And if he fails at doing that, then he fails. He's still undisputed now. There are 2 more fights. I don't think he's going to fight Janopik. You know, I would like him to, but I don't think they're going to fight because they're 2 Kazakh fighters. And then we're going to go into the whole Mexican thing. Like, I think they should fight each other. I remember seeing Janopik calling Triple G a fraud for saying that he likes to fight Mexican style. Well, then you two fight. You two fight, you know, pass the torch. It's happened plenty of times where the older seasoned fighter of whatever descent fought the younger up and coming guy. You know, it happened with Chavez Sr. and Oscar De La Hoya. Like the next star fights the next. That is cool with me. I would love to see Triple G to go on one last run, fight Janibek, fight Jamal Charlo, and retire, you know. And if you can't win those 2 fights, then retire. You know, but it'll be a great last run to go and finish retiring as an undisputed fighter. It would be great. You know, unified. He did have a lot of good wins. I think Triple G is going to be remembered for his Canelo trilogy. I think people are going to remember that in his prime, he was definitely one of the most feared fighters. I think most fighters was ducking him. A few of them wasn't. Like Andre Ward was one of them. But outside of that, he had a good career. He had a great career. You know, he was a pound for pound fighter in my top 5 at one point. But I would like for him to do, if he is going to stick around and not retire, I think I would go on one last run for undisputed because that's just not something he accomplished or Canelo accomplished at 160. That's my opinion. And Canelo should get the surgery. No ifs, ands, and buts. Like, get the surgery now, get better, get healthy, and be at your absolute best whenever you return against whoever, you know? And I think while Canelo is out, that leaves room for the other fighters in both 168 and 175 to do what they have to do because they don't have to sit around and rely on what Canelo's doing. You know, Saunders seems like he's getting back in shape. Callum Smith has gone and moved up. You know, I think this might be a couple guys that's moving. You got Andre, Zach Parker coming up. So you got other guys that's busy. Stay busy. Do what you got to do. Fight each other. It's just not sitting around. I just don't want more people to sit around and wait for Canelo, you know? Yeah, I think Ward can beat Canelo. I don't think Ward can beat Canelo coming back off of just a one-off fight right now. Off one fight, I don't think so, but I think in their primes, Ward would beat Canelo. Absolutely. Absolutely. He would burn Canelo out. He's bigger than Canelo. He would burn him out. It'll be competitive early, but Ward would outscore him and outwork him. You know, he'll smother Canelo. He just beat Canelo. He'll beat Canelo. I've never thought that Canelo was better than Andre Ward. I think Ward will have a tougher time dealing with Bivol and Better BF. Those are much more tougher fights for Ward if we're talking primes. All right. you know, but Ward at 168, I don't think there's anyone that's at 168 right now that would have beat Ward when he was at 168. But I do think Better BF and Bivol will have a good shot at beating Ward if Ward fought them at 175. But no one at 168 or below that. No one at 168 would beat Andre Ward. In my opinion. That's just my opinion. Yeah, so that's that. All right, guys, I got to get out of here, man. Y'all have a good rest of your day. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Oh, I have the Joseph Parker breakdown recorded. I'm going to upload it now. So be on the lookout for that later on this afternoon. All right. So y'all have a good one. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.